Hey, hey, hey. Welcome back to the Where's Wally podcast. Uh, in light of some of the new activities worldwide, specifically Iran versus Israel, uh, I think I can really have an effect on some of this stuff. So, what I have an incredibly large database full of Iranian data that's been hacked over the years. Also, a bunch of my previous work. I have uh, a live setup for tomorrow to talk about Iranian hacker groups, capabilities, targets, things like that. Also, like kind of some of the history and background into Iranian hacker groups, some of the people who've started those groups. This is going to be a pretty short video. I just wanted to start by um, bringing up one guy caught my eye. So a few things that caught my eye is I've been watching him for a while, since probably 2016. This guy's been on my radar. Mr.Satanic2000. You can see him here. This is basically like when a group takes credit for a hack. A lot of times they put the screen names and such of the hackers involved. This is from Ashiani Digital Sec Team. It's an Iranian group. We're going to talk about them tomorrow. The guy who started the group, Bahruz, is he's also on pretty much every most wanted list in the world. But you see here, your box owned by, it's pretty Bahruz is the guy who started the group. I got a file on basically everybody in here, but then there's Mr. Satanic right here. So pretty cool. Iran's the B team. All right. Hey, Dirty South Cats, what's up? Good afternoon. Hey, Benghazi Rabbit, how's it going? Um, so this is a slight revamp of a previous product. Obviously, I took the old company's information off all the slides and things like that. Added some new stuff because I just noticed today. I was just kind of randomly. I'm like, oh, I bet that's my guy on the FBI. So let's go here. Some Mr. Satanic 2000, right? So he's got a basically. Here's how this thing starts. Somebody gets hacked, and it's of interest to you because of the group, the activity, the type. Iran does a lot of defacements. Defacements are they go in and like I don't know, let's say the U.S. education website for a county in America, right, or anything in Israel. So they go and they hack it and they basically DDoS or physically break, not physically, but digitally break the site and then put up, maybe their little icon on the screen. So when you go in, it's all messed up, etc. I mean, it's pretty common. Defacements, though, don't do any permanent damage. They don't really hurt people a lot. And so we have to start somewhere. So that previous little image where it's got all the hackers' names, somebody like me will take that and be like, okay, let's figure out who these dudes are, right? So Mr. Satanic's kind of been a focus of mine, but he's got a multiple aliases. Mr. Satanic, 2000, Satanic 2000, Ali Satanic 2000. Originally, we had two possible names, Ali Ahmadzeh and Saeed Ali Amah. And then today, Sina Kassar shows up, and I'll show you why with two different pictures. One's for the FBI Most Wanted, which I'll show, and then my previous work. So yeah, also results. We found him kind of all over the internet, right? I mean, a lot of the Iranians. Hey, Miss Metcalf, what's going on? So a lot of Iranians don't use the same systems we do, especially when they're creating emails and such. It's not uncommon, but it's not super common to see Gmails and things like that. But that's just kind of how they do things, right? All right, so looking at a variety of sites, one really awesome site, which I was going to show, but it's timed out right now. It's called Zone H. Zone H is a site where you can go in and put in a screen name and see basically how many, what variety of websites have they claimed responsibility for defacing. So at the time I wrote this, it was 111. It's more in the 300s now with the various screen names that I think are his. And most of the time I'm right on this stuff. A lot of it's data backed. So um, it does make sense for these guys to change their name on a regular basis, continue to have OPSEC, but still get uh, some of the, I guess you could say, the adulation for their attacks internationally and but specifically within Iran. Um, so his defacements so far: sports pages, anti-Israeli agendas. He's conducted multiple attacks on Swedish sites, um, specifically because of cartoons of the prophet. There's also a decent hey, what's up? What up? What up? Statham Spay Coat and the Stone Vet. uh, in Islam, you're not allowed to have images of the prophet. They make cartoons and things like that out of Sweden quite on a regular basis. Um, a lot of journalistic entities in um, Europe, but specifically Sweden, and I'd also say Germany are not very interested in obeying Islamic law, so they don't. But there's also larger Iranian populations within some of these countries as well. Um, when he's typically referenced in the past, he's either a direct contributor or a direct participant or a contributor. So in the hacking world, like let's say Satanic's really good at DDoS. So maybe he sets up the infrastructure and the botnet to DDoS a site to take it down. Maybe he's uh, only running the DDoS part, but then other operations, he has skills to do X, Y, and Z, so he does. He's generally seen a connection with several groups. The main one being Ashiani, which is basically, let's say, the flagship hacking group in Iran, but also uh, Mr. Wilson Robin Hood security team, Stars hacking team. All these have 50 different names. They switch all the time. He's tied to multiple social networks. At the time I wrote this, 45. Obviously, Iranians get their accounts taken down all the time, so they have to go in and build new accounts on new systems. The one I did find on the bottom was from an Instagram account, and that gave us a picture. That was the first time we had some insight into, hey, this probably is this guy, etc. I'll show you why that's important. And sometimes with this type of intelligence work, you have to be patient. Um, uh, you're not going to figure out everything in a day. So you look at these things sometimes over the period of years, and in this case, gosh, 9 years. I'm pretty sure 9 years at this point. So, oh, he's got a large amount of followers and friends. Most of those are Iranian. And this is another example of one of the hack buys where you can. It's basically the notification you've been hacked. Sometimes this is on the website, like they'll do their logo, typically like the Iranian flag, some type of propaganda. Maybe if the group has its own logo, that'll be on there, and then who did it and why, basically. And then if you want to, like, you can come and click on the link if you need to. You can email them to discuss price to stop the DDoS. Typically, the advice, and well, let's not say typically, let's say 100%. If you ever get ransomed or anything like that, do not pay the fucking ransom, right? There's backups, there's other ways to get in. A lot of the, let's call them, decryption keys have been released open source. We can talk about that on a different video, but just don't pay. I mean, what do you have on your website is not it. You can get it all back without having to pay people who aren't going to pay you. Okay. So, one, like I kind of mentioned, like they have to create infrastructure, right, to conduct some of these attacks. We found, obviously, on some of these sites, some of these sites do not give a shit who you are, as long as you're paying. You can If you are paying it, they don't care. So you can use any name, any email, right? I mean, obviously they'll send a verification code and things like that. Um, but like we're looking at the Joomla, it's a formerly used, quite regularly exploit. It's not very common now. But we doing a search on these things for satanic. Then we found Mr.Satanic2000 at Rogers.com. Um, uh, and then obviously the links to everything. But then, looking back into the infrastructure, we have uh, whenever you create um, whenever you create a website, there's a register of that. And sometimes some things lead back to another. You get little pieces of data and you put it all together, like basically in a chain. So we thought his name was Syed Ali, and his last name Askowi, but it still may be. It still may be. But he's claiming that same email, right? But if I was building these sites, I wouldn't put my real name, obviously. I think that would be quite ridiculous. Also put his address, and he also self-identified as the manager of Ashiani Digital Sec Group between these times. This is kind of, what do you call it? Basically an Iranian LinkedIn that's been translated. So we do have a majority name match on some of these things. How he's identified himself is like Mr. Ali Satan, Ali Satan 2000, etc. The phone number and address are in Iran. Ashiani's an Iranian hacker group. Yeah, working on passwords to all of these things. We're trying to correlate activity to person, right? And that can be pretty difficult because you can be anybody on the internet, and Iranians certainly take credit for a lot of things they've never done. Also very common. So some of these guys are like, in their little world, they brag, and if they say we used to call it Somali math. If they say that they hacked 300 things, it's probably 30. But let's move on. This is the main body. I took out some slides because of the it's called TLP, which is Traffic Light Protocol. It's basically the unclassified cyber for Five Eyes. So America, Canada, the UK, New Zealand, and Australia. And then I would say also Europe. Like if something's TLP red, you wouldn't share that openly on the internet, especially someplace like YouTube. So I just took those slides out. But I was randomly looking at the FBI website, which I'll share here in just a second, and I saw this guy, Sina Kassar. Okay, so I was like, I bet that's my guy. A little bit further inspection, I know these pictures are pretty grainy, but let's look at a few factors here, right? The hairline, for one. Obviously, these pictures were taken at two different times. The facial hair, pretty similar. The kind of little bit of a double chin, pretty similar. You could even probably say stylistically the type of clothes, they say Iranian country kind of clothes is, yeah, dude, mustache game is strong with this guy. So I kind of think it's the same guy. Even the sideburns here, even though you can't really, it's not super clear. I think there's a lot of indicators that this is the same dude. Let me remove this real quick. I'm going to pull up the FBI site, or I'm going to move it over here. Actually, that's FBI's most wanted. Now, there's quite a few Iranians on here. They may not have this 100% correct, but maybe they do. Oh, wait, I better stop that. Present. Share screen. Okay. Boom. All right. So this is the FBI's most wanted list. Just some details that are a little different than the site that some of those little details. This one's got them at 1990. The other one has, oh shit. Okay, there we go. The FBI has it at 1990. I had it in 1991. Birthplace, obviously, Iran. Some of this information is, I mean, it's probably a guesstimate, right? Unless they know something. This is going to be a shocker, but an Iranian who's known to speak Farsi, right? But that doesn't really matter when it comes to hacking because vulnerabilities are vulnerabilities. It doesn't really matter what language, and a lot of those techniques are going to be the same. I don't understand what's going on there. That's weird comments. Okay, but yeah, like I said before, DDoS attacks. This one says the financial sector. All right, cool, fair enough. There's probably been some of that. It's kind of it's is that really that lucrative? No. Like I said about DDoS, he's probably one of the guys who has access or has created the bot network to do the DDoS attacks. Because if you could, there used to be systems, or there still are, LOIC, low orbit ion cannon. You could just basically put in a website URL or an IP address and say, hey, I want to communicate with this through the low orbit ion cannon 10 million times. That traffic, although it's loud and noisy, it's easy to see and it's easy to stop from a cybersecurity perspective. So, international flight risk, obviously. Field office who put this together was New York. Let's open this and see. Oh yeah, this basically says the same thing. I don't know if this is the same guy. I don't know if this is some type of AI rendering of him, but you know, doesn't really seem the same to me. But I guess it most certainly could be. Because the Iranians, like, just like any of us in America or any like group in America, you have people from Texas who, in like, people from Houston are going to, in general, dress a little differently than people from Chicago, right? That same cultural stuff kind of applies to Iran as well. It just depends on who they are, where they're from. I always thought this guy was from Esfahan, but Esfahan or Tehran, but who knows? We'll find out soon enough. Like I said, patience is key with some of these. I don't think that this guy's going to just fly into DC and hang out and watch an opera. Uh, right now he's probably limited to 12 countries in the world that he can leave and go safely to. And not even really that safely. I mean, obviously, he wouldn't be a tier 1 target at all. And they wouldn't risk American lives to go get somebody like this. But eventually, these guys will make mistakes. And when they do, you go grab them. So let me stop sharing this. But actually, yeah, I'm going to stop sharing this. And I'm going to kind of show a few things. A few things that I'm going to be covering here in the next few weeks, which are pretty fucking awesome. Okay. I'm just opening a few PDFs, so bear with me. Okay. All right. So this is what I'm about to show this is all hack data. I'm not the hacker. I am just the guy who has the ability to look at this and grab it and then put some analysis behind it. But some of this shit is going to come in really, really, really handy. Stone Vet, if you're still here, you'll love this. Because fucking Stone Vet is a comms guy. Let's do entire screen 2, share. And I think this would be a little better. Yeah, that's good. All right. So this was hacked. This is like a cheat sheet for the Communications Regulation Authority in Iran. what signals, what bands for VLF, LF, multi-frequency, high frequency, very high frequency. I forgot what the U stands for, high frequency, SHF and EHF, which is down at the bottom, and my giant head is covering. Let's zoom in on this. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Yeah. So on the high frequency, I don't know what all this nomenclature is, but this is the actual frequency that they're communicating on. Oh yeah, here we go. Okay, so we have codes here. This is what everything stands for: broadcasting, fixed, maritime, aeronautical. So this communication between land and airplanes. Aeronautical, mobile, 2 different types. That makes sense. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 different that makes sense. Broadcasting satellites. Satellite, fixed satellite. That's geosynchronous orbit. Iran doesn't have many. They share space with other countries that are their allies. Yeah. So this is all pretty great stuff. Okay, but so right off the bat, yeah. And some of this I don't understand. I was never a comms guy. I mean, I know what kilohertz are. I know what megahertz are. I know the channels. I don't necessarily know how to exploit it. I just know that it's important. So let's move on and see. Oh yeah, this is what somebody else did. I don't know who. This is their besieged militia radio spectrum. So that's pretty cool. It's basically, yeah, I mean, cosplayers. Government reserve frequencies. Some of the frequencies, how they're using it. This is one of the. I have a radio similar to this here at the house. ICOM. If you've ever been overseas in any type of combat scenario or intelligence, you're very familiar with ICOM. ICOM is a basically very inexpensive, low-grade programmable to quasi-programmable simple comm system, right? Works on VHF, UHF. Baofeng, cheap. Do I get a Baofeng in the office? Let's see. Yes. Boom. Yeah, this is almost the same one. So these are cheap Chinese, basically. It's like a handheld ham, essentially, without having a better way to describe it. You can program these. You can listen to specific signals. You can put it on scan. So in theory, I can take some of the Iranian ones and put them in here and see if I get any atmospheric bounce. The police have their own radios. Obviously, you have Motorola that cuts weight, right? Motorola used by very broadly used all across the world, right? You can get base centers for these. This one is not encrypted. You can get encrypted Motorola communications. Iran's park rangers, which I totally forgot they even had. Yep. Van vehicles. How do you identify those are the radars? This is the previous one that I just shared. So we'll go into this a little more. It is interesting that they outlined this. I don't know what that says either. This is a Justice for Iran document they've released. Basically, they're doxing a shit ton of people in Iran. I'm going to put this into an analyst notebook chart with their pictures and talk about who these individuals are over time. That's Ayatollah. Is that the Ayatollah? No. But yeah, it's pretty. There's more to it. there's more to it than just this data, which I will incorporate into any of the analysis that I'm going to do. Thought this was interesting. I found this a while ago. But basically, the authors of this um, knew this was coming as far back as 2012, right? I mean, it's not that hard to. You don't have to be a geopolitical expert. Hey, is that Richard? Yo, what up? Big Dick Richard AT. um, Richard and I have been talking about this for a while. So, hey man, just giving an overview of just one of the hackers I've been following. But he and I have been talking, and he speaks Farsi, so kind of good, right? But this document, I'll put this on my pages area, and they already knew this was coming. They already had all the targeting down. You imagine just regional uh, the regional closeness of Iran versus Israel gives them kind of like a more on the ground sense than we have, that shouldn't be a surprise. But this is a really good read, even though it is 13 years old. And then let's get out the good old Google Translate. This one's, I'm going to put this one into Analyst Notebook as well. It's obviously got names, emails, and phones. Oh, yeah. Well, Richards, he's our Iranian hacker. Yeah, I think Stone Vet's on there, but if he's not, I mean, hell, I should probably add him. So, sorry, I'm just taking a picture of this real quick. All right, so in the top, basically, this is part of the Basij Resistance Force Tehran 7 district. This is name, last name, area, email, username, mobile phone. And then their responsibility within the organization. So pretty cool. But stuff like this, table data, I don't know what the colors mean on this. I wish I did, but I don't. But like I mentioned before, yeah, you see some Gmails in here, right? But then you also see emails that you probably wouldn't be used to from a Western perspective. Some of those can be harder to exploit, but it's not that hard. Not at the end of the day. Let me open up one more. Let's go. Where's my Iran folder? There it is. Oh. Okay, well, never mind. That's it for today. Because I do have to clean up some other stuff. Yeah. I'm glad your family is okay, though. So let me stop sharing this and let's just talk about that for a minute. Stop sharing. Okay. And boom. Yep, there we go. So, obviously there's a war going on. This type of war is going to dramatically spill over its boundaries sooner than later. There's bombings going on right now. Yeah. So that's one of those red lines in the sand. Everybody's been talking about this morning. Last night, the Chinese have pulled their people out of the embassies and consulates in Israel and Iran. Everybody's like, "Oh my god!" And it's like, well, no shit. Every country's pulled their people out of their embassies that are not essential personnel, right? That's pretty pretty typical. A lot of these weapons, especially the ones coming from Iran to Israel, are not that smart. I don't know if you guys saw the picture. Israel got a missile into the side of the skyscraper into the guy's bedroom, and so it didn't. It hit its target. It's hit its target precisely, like in the wall, into the bedroom, detonates. Iranian weapons are more like a grid square. So, they're asking on their targeting, like there's radar and things like that. A lot of that on the older weapons was determined by amount of fuel, because it would basically go off once it gets into the atmosphere. It knows, okay, I'm trying to go right here. And so it would like release. Some missiles do this weird spin to burn off extra fuel. I don't think that cruise missiles do that, but there is a way that happens. I'm not a ballistic missile guy, but I just know they make a big boom. So I think the count last night was Iran fired about 100 cruise missiles on the large munition side. I think 93 of those 100 were taken out. A big bunch of those were taken out before they even entered Israeli airspace. So, that's a thing. But yeah, so that's a line here. So think of this as a line in the sand. Okay, like once, let's say, from the Israeli strikes, which are more precise, like the chances of hitting the Russian consulate in Tehran are slim. Could it happen? Sure. I think it's more likely to happen in Israel if the cruise missiles get through, the Iron Dome and the David's slingshot. There's like basically 3 missile defense systems in Israel. It is uncommon for those to get through, but also consider the ballistic missiles are really, really big. So even if you take out that munitions targeting ability and the main explosive material gets set off, right? There's still a bunch of shrapnel that has to come to the ground, and like that's not like a few pounds; it's like a few tons of debris hitting the ground. So that's a huge problem. But I mean, the chances of Iran surrendering to Israel in any way, consider that a zero, right? I wouldn't even want to think what that type of combat would look like, especially, Iran's essentially outgunned by a country a fraction of the size. And gosh, hey, we don't know. There's there 100% operations going on right now. We'll see how it goes. Some of the videos have been pretty wild to see. I've enjoyed seeing it because it tells us a lot about how these systems work. Even if you're not I'm not a weapons expert. I have a good understanding of how these weapon systems work and why and when they're used. Obviously, lately it's been more retaliatory, but and it's just, yeah, it is nuts, Rich. But so, school's out for the summer, so I'm going to try to do quite a bit more videos than I have been. Right now, I'm going to focus on Iran. Yeah, and a bunch of F-14s got hit. We'll show that video over the next few days. Just waiting for more stuff to come out. Like that's easier to see what's going on. The video of the munition hitting the hitting the Iranian basically state TV broadcast center. Right as the lady's saying, basically Allah will protect us. No bombs can hit us. And then like literally she gets done saying that and boom. And then she's like, oh shit. And she leaves. And I'm like, Yeah, that was a little premature. Um, so yeah, this one wasn't meant to be on here long. The next slide deck is probably, let's see how many slides I got here. Ba-ba-ba. The next one I'm going to give tomorrow is 41 slides. I talk about the groups. I talk about um, what are they? Well, like what are the nicknames? So, like, let's say APT 33 it's Iranian state sponsored group. They're also known as Elfin, Magnium, Refined Kitten. You know, they specialize in information theft, espionage, and sabotage. Who do they target? What are some of the stereotypical attacks? I'm also going to show um, the network behind this, and I can share all of that. A lot of this infrastructure is older now. It's think of it as I'm recapping what's we've been looking at over the, let's say, last 10 years, right? So with a country like Iran, with all the embargoes and all the limitations on their infrastructure, not just imposed by governments like the US and NATO and the UN, but also what they self impose on their people, really, really, really limits them to what they can and can't use. Also, think of them from a cyber perspective of having some sort of a limited budget. Um, so with that budget, yeah, they'll use infrastructure and then they'll shelf it for a little while, but then they just pick it back up and rename it, whatever they have to do. Uh, it becomes sometimes generic. But yeah, so just because it's not being used right now doesn't mean it won't be used in a couple weeks, couple years. We'll go over that in detail and talk about some of the tools they use, how they've used them. I'm going to also cover. Let me see if I got it in this one. If not, I'm going to. I do. Okay, so sometimes it's Iranian infrastructure, but it's not Iran. I'm going to talk about Turla, which is a very sophisticated Russian group, hacked Iran, um, a bunch of the Iranian groups. Took over their infrastructure and started conducting attacks. We're going to talk about that. So sometimes it's not Iran. Iran will 100% take credit for something they didn't do. But um, yeah, I'm going to show a little bit about that because I think that's really important to know for the future. Like, how do you determine when it is or is not Iran? If you think it's Iran, it looks like Iran, but then the code's written in Cyrillic, it's Russia, right? I mean, those are easy indicators. But there are some things that we know, and then there's some unknowns, right? So there's high confidence, medium confidence, low confidence. And what we're going to talk about tomorrow is all high confidence. And so if there's anything, like obviously, uh, Richard, I'm going to be reaching out. We haven't talked in a few days, but I'm on a roll doing some of my stuff. I see Richard helping with this stuff a lot. I'm also going to be reaching out to Tex. I haven't talked to him in quite some time, but we'll see how it goes. And like I said earlier, you'll see way more of it tomorrow. I basically got a file of some sort on every single one of these Iranians, right? Not just the hackers, but the leadership of these groups. One thing that Richard and I were talking about, we have the whole Iranian nuclear program. We got a bunch of their documents, like a lot of their documents. We're going to cover the only way I could describe it from an American's perspective is the Iranian version of Health and Human Services, but from their religious perspective. So, like the religious guidelines, things like that. Uh, that is an organization that is not around for the people, and they've been hacked, and multiple entities have been hacked. So, while this war is going on, this is basically what you could say the perfect time to get some of this information out there. Maybe if it assists one active intel person with exploiting the target anywhere in the world, that would make me pretty happy. Yeah, it would make me real happy actually. And anybody if you think that Iran is a friend of America or a friend of the West, and when I say Iran, I mean the government. I'm not talking about the people. People are actually really awesome, and they're really good to talk to, especially if they're here in America. Uh, but what I would say, like hopefully seeing the words of the people who are hearts are so filled with hate that they can't stand. They don't see Israelis as humans, right? And uh, there's this little thing called World War II, right? Where that it's like, hey, yeah, you guys tried to eliminate the Jews and that didn't work. Didn't work very well for anybody. Um, but we've seen this through history, and they're not going to be successful. Israel's too strong, and they're too well resourced, and they plan 10 steps ahead. That if 10, 200, they're 200 steps ahead of Iran at all times. So, but at that, I've got some stuff to do today. I will be back on tomorrow. What time did I say? Let's see. Oh, I can't see because I'm on StreamYard right now. But yeah, I set up, a live for tomorrow at. Oh, why is everything so slow? Okay. Yeah, tomorrow, 11 a.m. So that's going to be a little bit bigger. Like I said, think of this as an ongoing thing. I mean, I could probably do an hour or two every day for the next 2 months at least. Barely scratch the surface on what we have. Um, so obviously, other than Yemen, best chat on the internet, right? Yeah. So it's guys like Richard, guys like big techs, and a lot of the yeah, I will call you, but definitely, it'll be nice to have some help. Richard and I have been talking about this quite a bit. I'm not diming you out here, but some of the guys who are being targeted now that we've seen in the news, he's found them already in some of these data dumps. I don't remember exactly which one. He and I will cover that. We'll make a video about it. So, but yeah, if there's anything you guys want to see or any ideas on how to help, or if anybody wants to come on and talk about this after like the presentation time, I'll more than happy to share the link. And gosh, we're real close now. We keep going up and down 3 or 4 subscribers, but right now I am at, let's see. Okay, I got 4 to go and I'm monetized. So please, if you guys have some people out there who are not subscribed, ask them to. Tell them I'm 4 away. And I think that'd be cool to start getting some value, even though it's only going to be like $4 or $5. But be really cool. Really cool that it's grown organically, in a way that nobody can be like, say, I'm buying subscribers, grifting, anything like that. So, but yeah, but listen, I'm going to get off, guys. Thanks for tuning in. I really appreciate that. Message me, shoot me an email, the Where's Wally podcast, gmail.com. If you know my cell, use the cell, or Discord, or comment on this video. Please share broadly, right? This is, like I said, one of many. I'm going to create an Iran playlist. You guys will be able to share that, ask questions, give feedback. Like I said, this is old stuff that I'm revamping. And I think that the cyber, so we haven't seen this yet, which is one reason I'm covering it, but it is 100% coming. So, yeah, it is. attacks on America from a cyber perspective are coming. They're coming from Iran. I'm surprised we haven't seen it in the news as of today. Um, but I am pretty damn confident in that. That's a high confidence from Wally statement. Unless they just don't have the internet anymore. They did shut off in the internal internet in the country, but obviously the, the Iran playlist. But yeah, guys. Hey, thanks for tuning in. More to follow. Hit me up if you need anything, and we will talk soon. All right. Peace.